sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to the Yahoo Sports NFL Podcast. I'm Yahoo senior NFL writer Terez Paylor. Here, my main man and fellow senior NFL writer Charles Robinson. And Charles, good vacation, ready to rock, baby?
I'm ready to go, man. Like it's felt like a long off season. There's been a lot of stuff that happened this off season. I'm happy to be getting to the point now where we're talking about who's going to hold out of camp.
Exactly, right.
That's how you know
let's just get
truly on the doorstep.
Let's just get right back into the fray. We're going to spend the next 2 weeks previewing all 32 teams, starting today with the AFC. And next week, we're going to talk about the NFC. And then Charles and I are going to split up, hit as many training camps as possible, and then come back together. But before all that, we're going to go division by division, and we'll pick where we think each team is going to finish. And at the end, we're also going to pick who we think is going to Miami for Super Bowl 54. So speaking of Miami, Charles, let's start with the AFC East, where the team from Miami plays. And I think we got a pretty good discussion to kick this thing off with the team we're going to pick to finish last in the AFC East. And I think it's easy picking which two are going to be in the mix, but we got to make a choice, right? Between the New York Jets and Miami Dolphins. Right. And I'm telling you, I struggled with this because I look at the Dolphins roster and it's very clear they know they don't have enough talent to compete. Right. But I think the Jets just might be an old-fashioned dumpster fire. Their head coach is the general manager. If I could pick both those teams to go 3-13, I would.
I think, yeah, that's probably this. I mean, are we arguing right now, like, what's the worst team in the NFL right now? Well, maybe I don't know if I would say the Jets are the worst team in the NFL. Look, here's the thing about the Dolphins. I think I saw at one point, I wish I could remember where I saw it, like the Vegas odds on the Dolphins winning the Super Bowl.
Horrendous.
It was like 500 to 1.
Oh, yeah.
It was like insane.
Bad.
It was nuts. But then when I sat there and I thought about it, you're right, there's a talent drain. Jim Caldwell stepping away. Honestly, it hurts him.
Jim's very good with quarterbacks. That hurts him.
Very good with quarterbacks. I think he was an influence that, Brian Flores was going to lean on as a head coach.
Who we both like.
We like.
This is not an indication of how we feel about Flo.
It's more roster construction and where they're at. So, I think the overall, to me, this is the worst team in the AFC East only because I look at the roster makeup. I don't know. I mean, look, we don't know if Josh Rosen, we're finding out basically, I think the question around the Dolphins is, are they going to draft another quarterback? That's almost what this season's about. Do we have one in Josh Rosen?
I don't even think almost. I think that's what it is about.
Yeah.
Because Tua is going to be the number one pick. And I know it's early, but,
we'll see.
Ooh.
Yeah, we'll see.
You throwing Herbert in there?
Well, I'll tell you what. So I went to the Manning Passing Academy.
Yeah.
So I go to the Manning Pass Academy. I will tell you that. So Tua didn't show up, and here's something that was interesting. And I'm gonna end up tweeting about some of the college quarterbacks later. But I think NFL guys are a little worried about Tua's health. Like I think they're
interesting.
I've had a few guys kind of because Tua didn't show up to the Manning Passing Academy, and there were a number of NFL guys who were like, "Is this health related? Like, what's going on there?" And so I think they want to see not only decision making next season, but then health. But I will say this about Herbert, Justin Herbert out of Oregon. He cuts that mold, man.
He passes the eye test?
He's built for a quarterback. Like he's very built. He's kind of thick. Some quarterbacks have some thickness to him, but
how does the ball come out of his hand in person?
It pops.
Does it
and
really?
Manning,
wow.
Peyton likes him a lot. Peyton's talked to him quite a bit privately. So I would say anybody who's listening, if you think your team's in the market for a quarterback in the next draft, it was interesting. Like he worked a lot on taking snaps because at Oregon he does. Right. So that was one of the things he was like, I've spent a lot of time with Peyton learning how to take snaps and what can be expected out of the gun versus snaps, all this different stuff. But I thought at the Manning Passing Academy, Peyton the Mannings were very interested in Herbert, and mentally I had a chance to talk to him a little bit. Like nothing seems big now at this point.
Yeah.
I think he'll be, as long as health-wise he holds up, he'll be aided by going
so
back.
So you think it's more, that's to be determined. That's interesting. Yeah. I like the fact you went down there, you saw him in person.
Yeah.
Because you and I both know, sometimes you go to the Senior Bowl, you see guys, and you're, that's how, it pops when you see them in person.
Jake Fromm sat next to him, the Georgia quarterback, and I thought to myself, whoever his agent ends up being needs to be like, don't sit next to Justin Herbert.
It's just a big difference, right?
Big difference.
Okay.
You looked at these two guys and you're just like, wow, I wouldn't, not even close.
I'm really interested. I'm glad you mentioned that's very interesting. So, look, maybe the Dolphins are going to keep Josh Rosen depending on how he does this year. maybe they'll finish with the worst record in the NFL and they'll have a chance at Justin Herbert. But I actually do agree with you. I think it will be the Miami Dolphins at the bottom of this division. But I think the Jets are going to give them a run for their money. Just not really crazy kind of about the way this Adam Gase era has started. I like the hire initially, but I just don't like when you have that hire, you just kind of have just drama, right? Like you sign Le'Veon Bell, the GM gets fired, there's like rumors about them trading Le'Veon, even if it's not true, right? I just don't like that. I don't. But I do like Sam Darnold.
Right.
And I think that's a thing. Like, they know who their quarterback is.
Having the quarterback position sorted out.
And we also know that Gase is going to work with the quarterback and do some good things. Like, that matters, right?
And I think Le'Veon's going to be a good player.
Oh, yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Le'Veon's still a good player.
You know, it's interesting. You hear a lot of people complain about the Jets' offensive line, and like they should. It was bad last year. I do think Kelechi Osemele will help them.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I don't really see Bell as somebody that is completely dependent on an offensive line because he's such an effective receiver, especially on short routes. He's really going to help that football team.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, too, is that he's not a, wow, we got a physical line, boom, they blow a hole open. He's a patient guy. He's a picker. He's not a speed, so I think he can his vision helps to compensate sometimes for bad lines. And look, even in Pittsburgh, that line wasn't, it's been better in recent years, but I mean, there were years where Bell was running behind a line that was, had some issues. I think that he's an okay fit there. Great, Greg Williams will compete. I think what was really interesting to me is, I knew I had a chance to have lunch with a coach who knows Greg really well. And he told me, he said, I have to call Adam Gase and tell him, you need to talk to Greg and say, hey, tell him that you're growing Sam Darnold right now, and he needs some wins in practice.
Because Greg will wreck him.
He'll
do it.
Yeah,
he doesn't care.
Yeah,
he'll do it.
He'll absolutely go after him. So
one thing I'll say about that defense, I do like Quinnen Williams there. They signed C.J. Mosley, right? There's some guys here. Jamal Adams obviously is a stud. They've got some guys. A little worried about the corners. And I think in a Greg Williams defense, like the corners have to be good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're good. So that could be a problem. Dollars and donuts, we do think they have more talent than the Dolphins, right?
Yes.
But if this is like a nightmare scenario, there is a scenario where they're worse. I think
injuries.
Right. I think that could potentially happen. But I feel good about slotting them at number 3 right now.
Now, number 2 in this division.
Is it?
You brought them up before. And I was kind of lukewarm. I wasn't lukewarm. I was cold on it. But
you were cold.
I will say this: I've looked at you like the Buffalo Bills as the second best team in this division. I had a chance to go through their 53 before we did this show, and defensively they're going to be a lot better now. I mean, they actually defensively look pretty good.
They compete.
They
do
look pretty
compete.
good, and they're going to play hard. I think that the head coach is the right coach for that position.
He gets them to play hard.
I'm curious. I was thinking about Josh Allen. I'm like, man, what if this is that guy who just takes that huge leap that we don't expect? The guy, look, let's be honest. Played at Wyoming. This isn't to disparage Wyoming, but the coaching level in the NFL is going to be different.
Right.
And the amount of time that he's going to spend on his profession at a very high professional level with all the accoutrements that come along with being an NFL quarterback in terms of film work, all these things. You can pick up polish fast in the NFL if you're dedicated to it and you got the smarts. So Allen could be. I do like it. I didn't initially. I think you and I talked about Buffalo a few shows back.
You were disgusted,
and I was a little disgusted. Yeah,
but you look at it though, Sean McDermott, their head coach, came from Carolina.
Right.
This is like a junior Carolina.
It is. They brought in some.
This team is they're starting to look like that. Even from the quarterback, just this big, super athletic guy with a gun who's not all that accurate. It's actually kind of. And then you look at some of the things they've done. They added in all these skill players, and none of them are great, but they're solid. They're proven NFL players. They've improved the offensive line. I actually think Josh Allen will take a step up this year. I feel good about the Bills.
I think this is the dark horse team after looking at the too deep. If they show defensively and Allen can be, take a stride, I think this is a dark horse playoff team. I do too. Like a team that maybe could go 9-7.
9-7 would not surprise me with the Bills. How about that?
Yeah,
they would not surprise me.
Yeah, I think defensively they might actually be good enough to be a 9-7 team, which let's be honest, man. There was a time last year looking at the Bills roster where they were horrible.
People make fun of Josh Allen still. I did it. I know you did it. Like, everyone's done it. They criticized that guy. But, like, when you watch him play, and I did spend a lot of time last year watching him, like, he does stuff that some other guys can't do. And it's hard not to be tantalized by that a little bit. Now, on the flip side, some of the stuff he does is, 7-yard pass in the dirt, that should be completed that other guys don't do either. But I do think that the upside is there for him to take a big step forward this year. I'm interested to see what Brian Daboll can do.
He can't run as much as he ran last season. Like, that was an interesting thing.
He led him in yards and touchdowns.
Yeah,
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, he's big. Like, I get that, and he's physically built to do it and all that. But he really has to make a stride as a passer. Some patience on that part. How about you tell me? How do the Patriots? I was thinking about this. I saw something on Gronkowski. I remember I was watching the AFC Championship game. I was on my flight. Yeah. My flight, I think it was out to Oregon. And I was watching the AFC Championship game again. And, man, I forgot how many big plays.
You made a lot of big plays.
And a couple of big blocks in that game.
Don't forget the Super Bowl either.
And yeah, obviously the Super Bowl. The talent, we talk about the talent drain in New England every season. We're always talking about the talent drain. He is just one of those ones where I'm like, you can lose Flowers. You can lose, Trent Brown. I mean, you can use there are pieces that they've lost over the years, and I'm like, okay, they seem to figure out a way to weather these losses. He's like the first guy in a while where I feel like, other than like maybe Revis, when Revis left. Like, there have been a few guys who leave, and you're just like, man, that guy to me, what he meant to Tom, I am wondering how big of an impact this is. I'm nervous about how big of an impact it's going to be.
And they didn't really do a whole lot to replace him either.
Right.
We all kind of thought they might spend a premium pick on a tight end. Not really. They signed Ben Watson, but he's going to be suspended for the first 4 games. The thing that Gronk does, even beyond like the athletic stuff, was blocking. Like, that helped. Like, that mattered.
Right.
And I don't know how you replace even a diminished version of that guy.
And not only the blocking, but you and I think we're high on their running backs. Like,
we like I do like them a
lot. Yeah. I think we like the
James
depth.
White is awesome.
White. Yeah, I mean, look, the depth at running backs sick there, but he's such a big component of the running game as well. And yeah, it alarmed me. We've always known Gronk's a great player, but man, when I watched the AFC title game again, I'm just like, they absolutely do not win this game without him. There's no doubt.
They don't win the Super Bowl without him. He made some big plays in that game too.
Either game, right.
So let's also remember this. The Patriots lost Trey Flowers, who's a good football player. Maybe not worth Detroit paid him, but
he's a good player.
Well, you're worth whatever someone's willing to pay you, but ideally, okay. Trent Brown, solid NFL starter, right? Like, those are big losses, but at the end of the day, it's Bill Belichick. They're winning the division. They're going to finish with double-digit
Still not
wins.
going to pick against. I feel like every year, like, at some point, it's not going to hold.
It just doesn't matter.
Like,
You know what Bill Belichick? He is the living embodiment of every Madden player who's like in year 15 of his franchise. And like, your coaching stats are maxed out. Like, you've got like every single power up you can get. So like, guys develop faster into you. Teams trade with you when they shouldn't. Like, it's easy. It's just easy for you.
Yeah, I feel like for so many years running, I've been like, when does the hole come? That they fall into. Like, they're gonna hit a wall eventually. Yeah. I don't know, man. I from looking at Tom, and again going back to that AFC title game, he's a guy who just hit every big pass when they needed to hit it. Edelman, I think, is still, at this point, still going to be peak Julian Edelman. I'll be very curious to see how adding N'Keal Harry, if he can have some kind of an impact.
I think he will.
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, you went there, you saw him.
He gives them something they don't really have. I think he's going to, and he works hard. I think he's going to have it.
I know people don't want to hear it, but I don't have, it's so hard to pick it. Look,
we're not
as long as Brady and Belichick are there, and they're also 2 teams in this division that are really bad.
Right.
They look to me like
they'll win 11,
a team
12 games.
Be a 11-win, team.
So just to recap, AFC East, we both got the Dolphins number 4, the Jets at number 3, the Bills at number 2, and the Patriots at number 1.
I think we agree on that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to the AFC South. A little more competitive in this division, where even the team I've picked number 4 could easily rise up. But to do that, they're going to need their quarterback to step up in a big way. And I got the Tennessee Titans here. I just, Marcus Mariota's got to take a big step forward here for this team to start reaching its potential. They spent a high first-round pick on Corey Davis, the receiver. And at the end of the day, I still don't feel like this is an offense that scares you very much, even though the defense is good with Mike Vrabel.
Here's an interesting conversation that I had with someone with the Titans. I don't know if everybody's still sold on Derrick Henry.
That's interesting. Yeah. So now you can add him to the list of guys that might not.
I think Marcus, we talked about Marcus and we talked about Derrick Henry, and he flat out, both of them gave me the impression that they are. We know Marcus Mariota, they're sitting there going, is this it? Are we just going to have to draft a quarterback next year? They are absolutely in that camp. So if anyone questions whether, no, Marcus, no, they're to the point now. This is it. This is it.
Start seeing it by now.
No, it's done. Yeah. This is it. If he is, this is it, make or break for him. Derrick Henry was the interesting one because I kind of said to him, well, at least you figured that out. And he was like, He gave me the little kind of, well, we'll see. Mm-hmm. And I said, really, we'll see. And I don't know what it is. There's something about Derrick Henry's running style. I know we look at his size and we're like, he's this and he's that. I don't know that they're all sold on him being the type of back we look at him and thinking he is for his size. And I'm just telling you right now, I felt some extreme reticence on their part to sit there and go, this is our franchise running back. We're going to, we can build an offense around him. Pretty much flat out, I felt like there's a very solid chance that Derrick Henry is not even their starting running back in 2020. This felt like, just like Marcus Mariota, I felt like Derrick Henry, this is sort of a make or break year for him. I thought Corey Davis, what was interesting to me was, Corey Davis was a guy that I had questions about, and he's like, look, the tools are there. He didn't say that. It was what was interesting to me about Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. He wasn't like, hey, the tools are there, and but Corey Davis, he's like, hey, the tools are there. It's just he can't put it together. He can't, catching ball. There's just certain things about his game. There's a mental aspect of this that he can't seem to get over certain elements of what he needs to do to break through. It was just weird to me that out of those three, Derrick Henry, Marcus Mariota, Corey Davis, he felt more sold on Corey Davis putting it together this year than obviously Marcus or Derrick Henry, which is weird.
The Titans finished 9-7 last year. They tried to upgrade their offense. They signed Adam Humphries. They drafted A.J. Brown, who I loved. He will help them.
Right. They like A.J. Brown a lot.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's going to immediately, he might become their best receiver.
They think, no, there's a chance. For real.
That's an immediate kind of thing.
Huge diva, by the way, though. I did get that from them.
How about this, though?
Already, walking in the door.
Great. Love it. Let's go. As a receiver, that's fine. Let's go.
Yeah.
Guess what? They probably need some swag like that on that offense.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was funny though, because that came up right away. They're like, hey, so the diva thing, they're he totally fits that. I'm like, really?
He wants his touches.
Since you drafted him, they're like, oh yes, he is definitely.
Guess what? They need some of that on that offense. Yeah. But their first round pick, Jeffrey Simmons, is a guy that might not help them initially.
Yeah, I don't think he will.
So, this is a team that could be the same as last year, but record-wise, they could take a step back. I'm picking them fourth. Do you agree? Who do you have last in this division?
I am agreeing. I'm going to agree with you there because I actually think the other three teams in this division are really good teams. This is a brutal division, too.
This is a brutal division.
For the Titans, because I think the other three teams have significant talent. You've got one that worked out the quarterback position, which was a major problem, obviously, with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
And had just made the AFC Championship game
the year before.
Right. So this ought to be really interesting because I think we agree on all that. So who do you have as your number 3 team?
I think it's Jacksonville.
Okay, I do too. I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah. That's interesting. You picked the Jaguars to go pretty far last year, right?
I picked them to go to the Super Bowl last year, yeah.
So you don't...
I did not... accurately read the Blake Bortles. I did not think Blake was going to go in the tank.
I love that though, but you were hearing stuff too, and you still kind of thought they'd figure it out.
Yeah, because I thought that they took the appropriate measures. You know, I think you and I talked about this going into last season, where I had told you I had heard the coaching staff saw some of the defensive players and maybe even Fournette getting a little bit too big for their, you know, the ego had kicked in. This idea that they were like ready to ascend and be the next, you know, because they gave the Patriots a run for their money. It was sort of the popular opinion that, you know, hey, this is, and for me, I bought into it. And I thought the coaching staff stepped in. They suspended some guys early in camp, and they basically said, look, check yourself. I just thought, okay, these were the right moves. I didn't realize, though, I mean, honestly, like the Leonard Fournette thing blew my mind, like how difficult of a player he became. I mean, we're not even talking about the injuries. I'm just talking about like the maintenance of dealing with his personality. I never thought would happen.
I'll say there's enough happening here that could be a distraction. Okay, like Telvin Smith's not even there. You know, Fournette, like you mentioned. Plus, there's pressure. You know, there's pressure on Doug Moreau. Like, there's pressure.
Yeah.
Like, you have your quarterback. This is a Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
Flip, gotta make it work. John D. Phillip, like, there's some pressure here.
Flip's working with a guy he knows, so you can't be like it's a mismatch between
I mean,
the
there's really
and the quarterback.
There's really like no excuses to not finish 9-7 or 10-6 or make the playoffs. So like, there's gonna be some pressure.
Schedule, you know, you can look at the schedule and say, look, it's a tougher division
at
the top.
But I'm saying, like, if you're Shad Khan, like, I don't know if I want to hear it. You know,
I wouldn't.
I just, you know, I got you, Nick Foles. Like, you just told me Blake Bortles was the problem. And that's the guy you guys decided to pay, by the way. So, okay, I'm giving you a reprieve from that. This has to work.
6 and 10, people are getting fired.
Right, and that's not like necessarily a locker room that's just, you know, that's not a breeze to kind of navigate after the stuff that's happened there. So, like, they get off to a rough start. That's a death watch team.
The only thing that really makes me nervous, though, again, is when we've seen Nick Foles flourish, he's surrounded by. There was some talent in Philly. Like, people underestimated the talent.
Skill talent.
Yeah.
And the offensive line was,
absolutely. The line as well. And like coaching talent that we saw kind of fan out after the Super Bowl win. Yeah. So there's a lot there that, you know, could Nick Foles be the guy that falls flat on his face? And oh my God, the Jaguars are 4-12, 5-11. Yeah, that could happen. Absolutely.
The risk is is why I've got them third in the division. Second is where I expect we might have we might be able to discuss that. I'm going to go Houston.
Okay.
What about you?
Man, I'm a little flustered that you and I agree this much on.
I'm sure we'll have some, but
I'm going to go Houston, and it has to do with the fact that they set out to upgrade that offensive line.
And I just don't feel like they did. Like, they got outmaneuvered a little bit at the offensive tackle position. Yeah. Andre Dillard was tailor-made for what they needed. Yeah. And Philly moved right up in front of them. Just snatched them right on up. No, I mean, you can like Titus Howard. That's fine. But I just don't feel like the offensive line is taking a step forward. But I will say this. I feel like my decision to pick the Texans second has more to do with how much I like Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. Like, I really like the Colts, but I'm not going to shortchange the Texans here. If the Texans are going to win this division, like what do they need to have happen here? Remember, they also lost Tyrann Mathieu.
Right. I think so a couple of things I think need to happen. Number one, I think Watt needs to once again play at the level he played at last year. And I hate to say it, look, Watt's age is like starting to get to the point where I'm like, how much longer can we expect absolute elite level J.J. Watt? I think we're still in that zone a little bit, but we're starting to enter the winter of that talent spot. I just look at Jadeveon Clowney and I say this, like, I'm like, you can, of all the defensive pieces that I think really truly could be as impactful as possible. I don't think their corners are great. Okay, like I think they've got some issues on that defense, but to me, if it finally clicks, and this every year conversation with Clowney.
It's a contract year.
Right, it was a contract year last year.
No, but like, he had a good season.
So a good season.
Yeah, no, but like,
I'm talking about this.
You want to see a historic kind of.
This is it. Like,
I don't know if he's wired like that.
He might not be wired, and you're right. You might be right, but I'm saying I want to see him be a defensive player of the year candidate. That's what I want to see out of him. He has, look, you and I, we've seen him in person.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we've seen him play in person.
Absolutely.
We've seen him up close. We've
Unbelievably
spoken
gifted
to him over the years. Like, he is, from a physical standpoint, he's 100% as physically as imposing as Aaron Donald even.
We want to see the pass rush come together for him. As a run defender, he's
a
pretty
really
good.
good player.
He's like a really good run defender, but we want to see the pass rush.
I want to see the greatness.
Sack production.
Elite.
Let's see it.
Yes, elite, Von Miller-esque. Like, I want to see Aaron Donald, a guy who just gives you fits.
That's interesting. You think it comes out. I'm going to put it back on the offensive tackles. I think if Matt Khalil, Titus Howard, Max Sharping, if those guys play well, I think they're going to win this division. If they fail, they might finish third.
Khalil's scary. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's scary. Titus Howard, interesting.
He's really talented.
You and I talked about Andre Dillard. What I was told when I asked them, I had a chance to talk to someone there in the fallout of the Brian Gaines stuff, all the mess that happened in the front office there. And so I was talking to someone in personnel, and we kind of got off to the Titus. I asked him, hey, did Brian Gaines, the general manager, got fired? Did he get fired because, Andre Dillard, you got jumped for Andre Dillard? He said, look, Andre Dillard wasn't our guy. He was like straight up. He's like, now what is he going to? I think this guy's honest, the guy I was talking to. And so he just said, look, Titus Howard, he was our guy. Like, he was the guy. He was always going to be our guy. That's why we didn't worry about if someone was moving up. We knew no one else was going to get him. We knew he was going to be there for us. That's how much they like him. Now, he's crazy raw, but if you really believe in him that much, we'll see. I just don't think, after watching Deshaun Watson there, and I would tend to think you agree, we can't have a third year of the abuse that he took, right?
It's a McNabbian level at this point. Just too much punishment.
People forget how hard McNabb got hit, like at times in his career.
At some point, his eyes are going to start dropping.
Right.
And when that happens,
he's going to miss plays.
You're going to miss big plays down the field. So
that his growth too. He has to.
Yeah.
There are certain elements of the game that need to grow.
But I just don't. Sure, but I just don't protect him. Please give him a shot.
Start there. Right.
That leaves the Indianapolis Colts, who went 10-6 last year, made it to the divisional round last year before they got beat by the Chiefs. This is just an ascending, well-run team. Like, you kind of hear that universally. People kind of respect the way that they're run. They kind of respect the way that this team's being built. Their defense was pretty solid last year without having like a ton of really good players. Like, it was actually just a really well-coached defense that played hard and was fast. Now, they got Darius Leonard, okay? They got some guys. But, like, I think they tried to really add to that this offseason. I think Justin Houston's going to help them.
Yes.
Right? I think Justin Houston's going to really help them. And then they added a bunch of draft picks to that side of the ball. So, to me, I think the Colts are a team that, I believe in Frank Reich. I think he knows what he's doing. This is one of those teams that's going to continue to ascend. They've got Andrew Luck. The key for them will just be continue to keep him upright, right? Like, that's the thing. I don't think it's a coincidence he stayed healthy. They made the playoffs last year, right? So, like, they got to keep that guy upright. They got to protect him.
I think look, free agency, it's interesting because, there were three guys they went and got, obviously, in Devin Funchess. They got Spencer Ware. They got Justin Houston. I did not see them. I thought maybe they'd be a little more active in filling out the bottom of the depth chart. Now, if you believe you've drafted well, then that's what takes care of it.
They have a lot of faith in how they draft.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
But could they have used a little bit more offensive skill position help beyond Devin Funchess?
They need some depth.
Probably.
Depth. And I'm not like a huge Now, this is a funny thing about Funchess, though. I viewed Funchess. When Funchess was in Carolina, I viewed him the same way I viewed Eric Ebron when he was in Detroit. Was a guy who I looked at and I was like, man, he's got a lot of talent, but man, he drops things. He can't, they're not getting that. They're missing about 15% out of this guy. They're just not getting that final 15% out. Eric Ebron goes to Indianapolis, maxes his out, and look, I saw pictures of him. Like he was that guy that Detroit, they always used to complain, like, he doesn't always look like he's in enough shape, he's this and that, dropping balls, like, mentally, is he there? But then he goes to Indianapolis, and that didn't seem to bother them any. They were fine with that. And so Funchess, I wonder if maybe some of the things that Carolina they were like, he just can't get over, certain aspects of, is he running routes well enough? Is he catching the things that are thrown to him? What about the leadership aspects? If Indy doesn't care about that and if he becomes sort of what Ebron did when he made that transition, then I think the 3 players they signed are great.
Some of it also is just fit on your roster because Indy was able to get the most out of Eric Ebron by calling things he ran well and by having a quarterback who believed in him with a fresh start.
Yeah.
Sometimes a fresh start is a good thing. Like, that matters. Yeah. So I could see something like that happening for Funchess. But I think more than anything, they have one of the best young offensive lines in football. Mm-hmm. And they're going to have to continue to stay healthy there and keep kicking butt up there to keep Andrew Luck healthy.
That offensive line, quietly, this reminds me of, I don't want to put this on them yet because they're not.
You know what? Just
do
it. There. Just do it.
When Dallas brought in Zach Martin,
wow.
and you kind of looked at that offensive line and you said, man, they've got just this insane wealth of talent. Indianapolis isn't quite on that level, but it feels like a line that
I'm not afraid to say I feel like it's kind of – there's
no
one there like –
young all of a sudden.
There's no one there like prime Tyron Smith.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Exactly.
But everywhere else – they
have their Zach Martin.
It's pretty good,
There's no doubt they have their Zach Martin.
I even like Glowinski. Like, they have some good guys, man. Braden Smith, the right tackle. So, there's some.
Quentin Nelson is your that guy is a
and that's
beast.
Great.
He's an anchor.
That's a great anchor.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we agree with the Colts. All right, get to the AFC North. Hopefully, we'll have a little disagreement here, but it won't be at number 4. You and I both agree. The Cincinnati Bengals, no chance. I mean, that team's finishing 4th in this division.
Yeah, I would.
Okay. No, go. Say it.
Yeah, I mean, no, I agree. It's just, you look at this division is so, I think there are a lot of, and I don't really put Cincinnati into this because I don't think Cincinnati talent-wise stacks up with the rest of the division, but it's like every team you could put some pretty healthy other than Cincinnati, you could put some pretty healthy expectations on them. And if you told me, for example, it goes off the rails in Pittsburgh without the talent, the talent drain, and all of a sudden they're not as good as we thought they were. If you told me Cleveland, the locker room, you have a new head coach who all of a sudden couldn't get all those guys. I just think that there's bust potential for even Cleveland.
You could even make an argument, though, that even if those teams don't live up to their potential, they still might finish better than us. Right. Dude, they already lost their first-round pick. They lost Jonah Williams for the season.
Which is just devastating.
Already.
Brand
new coach, Zach Taylor. He's a young guy. You're hoping that he's Sean McVay. You're hoping.
It's not even.
No, I'm just saying.
It's unfortunate that he gets tagged with that because the truth is.
No, I know.
He's not. People need to understand this. He is not Sean McVay. Sean McVay is like a 1 in a million. He's like Pat Mahomes.
See,
you want someone to be Pat Mahomes? You're like, man, he's got a cannon arm or this or that.
Yeah.
He's not going to be Pat Mahomes. Okay, it's like Dan Marino. No one's been Pat Mahomes since Dan Marino.
It's like trying to draft the next Dan Marino.
Right.
You're not going to do it.
You can't just
replicate
happens. McVay.
That's a good point.
It was insane.
I love that. But
I'll agree with you. 4th.
Okay, but just again, what did they do to get better? I'm not seeing where a whole lot of the improvements this is gonna be a year where they're gonna have to take some L's probably, especially in this division. So moving on,
I think you have too many pieces aging. AJ Green's aging.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Andy Dalton's aging. Right. You could look at some prime pieces on this roster and say, next year I could see the quarterback gone. I could see the number 1 wide receiver gone. You could see the retooling and the complete flush out begin.
I mean, their whole hope that this team is better is based on their coaching staff being better.
Right.
I don't think it's gonna be. Right. So I'm sorry. I think this team is far and away 4th.
It's not going to be when McVay came into the Rams and we're like, man, the Rams are a smoking mess.
This team is picking in the top 5 in 2020.
Right. People forget, too, another thing, too, with Zach Taylor and the Bengals. When McVay walked into the Rams had some talent. The Rams had quite a bit of talent that Sean McVay walked into. Zach Taylor, not even close.
Team number 3.
Oof.
I'm saying Baltimore. Baltimore is a team that pushed for the playoffs last year. They went 10-6. I think there's going to be some growing pains with my guy Lamar this year. I think there will be a few growing pains as he continues to develop as a passer. everything we said last year about Patrick Mahomes, like, oh, they got the tape on him now.
Right.
That's really going to apply here.
Right.
Like, whatever passing concepts that he had down, they will take away.
Plus part of his development right now is going to hang on some young receivers. And
right. And receivers are never good when they're young.
It takes a little time. Right.
Like, they're very rarely very good.
So there's a growth process.
And they lost some guys, dude. Zadarius Smith from their defense, Terrell Suggs. Like, there's some guys they lost. So I think this team
lost the linebacker that got overpaid.
Oh, C.J. Mosley, of course, yeah, man. So C.J. Mosley's a really good player.
No, really good player.
Like God,
man, they really paid C.J. Mosley though. For real, I'm just saying.
You said that so dismissively, like they just paid.
They paid
Johnny
like
Morton
$1 gazillion. I'm sorry, but C.J. Mosley's deal. You can say whatever you want about the off season, but C.J. Mosley's deal was the one that I think I heard more teams like, what the hell?
I heard some of that too.
Happened.
That was a lot. I heard some of that too, man.
I thought I'd hear that about the safety. Okay. I'll say, other than like Landon Collins, the Landon Collins deal blew people's minds.
Yeah, I heard stuff about that too, though.
But so
that was an absurd deal.
C.J. Mosley was one where people were like, "Oh my God!" It was like I thought C.J. Mosley. It was that moment where you remember when guards all of a sudden started to get paid. People were like, "Oh my God, guards are getting paid."
Yeah.
C.J. Mosley was like, "Oh my God, we're paying inside linebackers now." Like, "Oh my God, this is
and it's like a mix of like anger about it.
Yeah.
Like it's like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like it's great. So I think Baltimore could finish 8-8, or they might have a winning record, but I feel better about the other two teams in this division finishing higher. And hopefully there's some disagreement here, but I kind of don't think there will be because I'm not picking the Browns to win this division. I don't feel comfortable doing it. Like they got to show me. Like I know there's a lot of talent here. There's Odell Beckham Jr., there's Baker Mayfield, Kareem Hunt. There's all kind of guys here, but I'm sorry. There's a lot of personality in that room. And remember last year, Charles, when I'm like, I don't know, Charles, the Cleveland Browns, and you were just like, listen, we've been talking about this for 15 years. They have to show me. The Cleveland Browns have to show me, bro. I'm sorry. They just have to.
We're going to disagree here.
Good.
And here's why. For the Steelers, what bothers me about the Steelers, obviously you lose. Unfortunately, we're going to underplay it, but honestly, losing Antonio Brown is massive. Like the bottom line, it's a massive loss. Okay, it really is. It is an offense-changing loss. Okay,
he's still a very good player.
Le'Veon, I understand Le'Veon was not there last year, but again, this is two elements of that team that are not going to be on the field that potentially could have been on the field. So I don't like that, but I don't like the Mike Munchak loss. Like, honestly, that really worries me. Mike Munchak was offensive line coach, obviously, for the Steelers. Far and away from what I was told when I talked to teams about the coaching cycle, the coaching cycle hires, guys were like, listen, Mike Munchak is the best positional coach in the NFL last season. They thought that just from a positional assistant, not a coordinator, from a positional assistant, that he was the best coach in the NFL. So to me, losing those guys, that's massive ramifications. And then on top of it, Ben Roethlisberger continues to get older, and yet we don't talk about Ben like that. Like we talk about other quarterbacks, we're like, oh, he's a year older. Like when do we start to see the slide? Well, Ben's a year older, and now he's lost his guy for the long time.
I think that's fair. I have some rebuttals to that.
Okay,
though. Here we go.
Let's go.
First of all, you're actually 100% right about Mike Munchak. That's a huge loss. But you know when that's going to be felt? When they don't return all 5 starters. When these guys were all tutored and mentored by him. So like, it's just so like, they're gonna know like the way he taught them. These are the same guys.
Okay, but here's my problem with that. Those guys, that offensive line, and I think this gets underplayed a little bit. There are certain guys in the offensive line that are diva-ish. Okay, like we can talk about divas getting off they are guys that honestly are
on their offensive
line who I think are locker room guys, but they will step on you. They'll step on guys in the locker room. And Pittsburgh fans know which ones they are because they're the ones they read
well, how about
taking shots at guys.
That leads me perfectly to point number 2. That might very well be true. but I still don't think that hits until 2020. Why? Because I think this is a Ewing theory team. 15 years ago, Bill Simmons came out with this theory that, remember when the New York Knicks went to the NBA Finals without Patrick Ewing? Everyone counted him out, and he came up with this theory where sometimes teams lose their best players and end up being better. And there are two criteria for that. The team has a star player who receives a lot of attention but never wins anything. And the second is that the star player leaves the team and everybody writes the team off. Now, the Steelers never won a Super Bowl with Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell, right? And the second part, I don't think they're getting written off completely. But there's a lot of people talking about the Browns, Charles.
Okay, but that's different. That's different though than writing a team off. Liking another team is not the same as writing another team off.
I feel like when you're the Steelers and you've displayed the kind of mastery they have in general in that division, it's not like as clear cut as I wish it could be. But I think it does fulfill the Ewing theory requirement. I do, and I think this is a team that will bond together to actually have a really good season this year. And I'll also say this. I think they're going to miss on the field. They'll miss Antonio more than they'll miss Le'Veon because James Conner can play. You and I both wrote that last year. So replacing Antonio Brown as a football player on the field, that's going to be difficult. But I still think I think this team is going to find a way to put it together this year. And they're going to use those guys as scapegoats. So
I feel like that most of the narrative that I have heard around Pittsburgh is largely the whole addition by subtraction thing. Like I think a lot of people are buying into addition by subtraction.
Not quite, because there's a player wearing number 55 at middle linebacker now that is a pretty big addition in Devin Bush Jr.
Oh, but I'm just talking about the departures.
But they got better.
I think Devin Bush is a big. You and I have. We've discussed
Tell your Devin Bush story.
Yeah. We've discussed Devin Bush.
Tell it. It's great.
Which Devin Bush is this? The whole Don
people
Brown,
accountable one.
The Don Brown one. Yeah. When they were getting housed at one point, it was in the Ohio State game, and they came off the field, and Don Brown was headed to the defense to rip him, just to light into him, destroy him. And Devin Bush stepped up to Don Brown and said, Michigan's defensive coordinator, he said, no. He's like, I want to do this. He said, I got it. Let me handle this. Mm-hmm. And went over and just eviscerated Michigan's defense. And some, NFL guys, personnel guys, when the draft was coming around, they saw the film of this. And, I mean, they were lit up. Like, it was one of those things where, and I think you and I had talked about it. I said, this guy, before the draft, you and I were like, oh, my God. Imagine if this guy ends up in a Steelers or a Ravens uniform. We're like, this is the
perfect. And when it happened, we were both like.
We look at each other.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
One other thing that I think is going to unify these guys, remember, this is the same team that spitefully voted for Juju Smith-Schuster as the team MVP over Antonio Brown. A complete spite vote.
Yeah,
I really feel the Ewing theory is potentially in effect here. So that's good. Okay. Our first disagreement.
Okay.
Tell me why you believe in the Browns, though. Before we get out of here.
Okay, a couple of things. Number one, I think Baker Mayfield's going to be better.
I agree.
I think he's going to be better.
I think Baker's outstanding.
I was never like I don't want to say I was a huge Baker guy or not a huge Baker guy or whatever. To me, I thought he was a good quarterback. I was very surprised at how good he really was last year when he got in there. What blew my mind with Baker was, as a rookie, you just never see a guy step into a team and the whole team, they're like, that's our leader. You never see a rookie ever walk onto an NFL field and by mid-season, they're all like, yeah, that guy right there, that's our leader. That is our guy. We're following him. And they buy into that guy like I have never seen. It's crazy to me. And he's real. It's all real.
I think, I don't know if that's why I think kind of his cockiness is good there. When you have that just culture of losing, sometimes you just need
he's pissed about everything.
Right. I think
he's always
that
mad.
Shakes it up. I think that changes the culture, right?
There's more pressure from Baker to win than Freddie Kitchens.
Right.
Baker's pissed at you if you're not and as coaches, as long as you and I have covered sports, I went to Michigan State, Draymond Green. I remember, coaches love nothing more than when they've got a guy who gets respect from other players, who coaches harder than they do. who's more pissed off at players
There's a
not
lot to
doing
be
their
said for
job,
that, right.
than they
Those are the best locker rooms.
Those are the best guys.
The ones that are policed by themselves.
And
by the way, tell me if you agree. I do think if he wasn't as respected as he is, his Duke Johnson comments would have been a much bigger
deal, right?
Because you and I, you don't talk about another guy's money,
but
like it didn't become a thing, Charles.
Not to other guys.
It was just like,
I think there were guys in that locker room who probably were like, might have done the.
But if there was a lack of respect there, that would have been a way bigger deal.
I think there were guys who were like, but then they were also like, but he ain't wrong.
Yeah.
I think they were quiet. But he's not wrong. I think Baker put words to what some other guys in that locker room were feeling.
And I think he's still kind of learning how to lead at the NFL level, but they do respect him already.
So I think Baker improves as a player. And then I just think, look, from a sheer talent standpoint, and the fact that if they kick a couple field goals last year,
right,
they end up being a team with a winning record.
Right.
And I just think there's absolutely the possibility that Freddie Kitchens never gets his arms around all the talent and the personality and craziness. There's implosion potential. But good Lord, they are loaded.
They are.
Good Lord, they are loaded.
There
are people who have left that organization who I've spoken to who are like, holy shit.
Well,
the amount of talent they've gathered is nuts.
I can tell you, people I've talked to throughout the league recognize the threat that's there in Cleveland. Those skill players are really difficult to match up with. Hey man, Juice Landry, Odell Beckham Jr. No one talks about the tight end Njoku, but he's gonna see single coverage all year long. He's one of the most athletically gifted tight ends in football, and we haven't even gotten to the running backs.
And at midseason, you might just get a guy added to your roster when he's not suspended, who's a Pro Bowl level running back who's healthy at midseason, completely healthy, not banged up healthy, real healthy.
Yeah, so I could definitely see it, but I'm gonna go with the Steelers. So just to recap,
okay, I'm going the Browns. You're going the Steelers.
Right. So we both agree. Team that finishes last in the AFC North right now is the Bengals.
Yes.
Third's the Ravens.
Yep.
Second, I'm gonna pick the Browns. You're picking the Steelers. And first, I'm picking the Steelers. You're picking the Browns.
Right. We just disagree on first and second.
That's fine. That's good. Okay, moving on to the AFC West. Of course, this is the division where I'm living. And at number 4, I'm going to pick a team that I think many people are really looking forward to seeing on Hard Knocks. They haven't canceled their HBO Go subscriptions yet just to see this team on Hard Knocks. I had to think about it because I think Denver's in the mix here, but I'm going to Oakland Raiders. I want to know if you agree with me because Oakland did add a lot of talent. And I do think initially the Antonio Brown-Gruden relationship is going to be good because he's going to see a lot of targets. I wouldn't be surprised if Antonio Brown has the most targets in pro football this year. And I think that's all he wants. I think he'll be happy with that. But I do think this team's going to lose a lot of games because I'm just not sure it's all going to come together quickly. Where are you at on the Oakland Raiders, and who do you pick fourth?
I think it's going to be the Broncos.
Interesting.
Actually.
Okay.
I don't buy Flacco. I don't. I understand Flacco. Last season he was serviceable for most of the season with the Baltimore Ravens. And what I was told was when Kubiak was going out the door in Denver, his kind of parting gift was to have a conversation with Elway in which he said, look, I coached him. There's before, obviously this is before Kubiak goes out the door. Before they go and they get Joe Flacco, he said, I still think Flacco can be a serviceable multi-year quarterback, couple years, and you can still get something out of this. It settles down the offense. You've got some pieces on offense, some guys that we drafted, obviously an undrafted running back. We have some pieces that are still making some strides. This will be the settling factor that we've needed. Case Keenum wasn't that. The problem was I bought into the Case Keenum thing. And then that
you
didn't
know
happen.
better now.
Yeah, and I know better now. I do like Fangio.
I'm buying into Vic.
See,
I believe in Vic.
I believe in Vic as a defensive coordinator. I think he's fantastic. I have no ideas. I don't know if his style translates. In some ways, he reminds me of Singletary. Okay? Like Mike Singletary. Mike Singletary, when he took over the 49ers, he had a certain style and mentality to him that lended itself very well, when he was a positional coach or if you're a coordinator, you can kind of run and stylize yourself that way. I think when you have to run a whole team,
it changes a little bit.
Yeah, it changes a little bit. You have to run meetings, you have to organize things. Head coach is about a lot of other little details.
Right.
Personally, I think Vic Fangio is a guy that is more suited to being the number one delegate. You have your general and then you have your next in command.
He's the right-hand man.
I think he's the right-hand man.
You think he's more like in Batman parlance from '89? He's Bob the Goon. He's not Joker.
Right.
Like, I got
right.
it.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah. He's right. He's Bob. Bob.
You are my number one.
My number one. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly it. I don't think he's
That's
Jack
actually
Nicholson.
Brilliant. I like that. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think he's Jack Nicholson. I don't think he's the Joker. So to me,
okay. All right.
I think he's, I don't think he's a bad addition. I think he'll be good for the defense.
I think the defense
just don't
is
know.
still going to be good.
Right. I just don't know if he's good enough for the offense.
I'd probably be willing to put money that Drew Lock is starting games by the end of the year. But I also
then they're a fourth place team. Come on, if the rookie quarterback that you drafted,
I
by
could
the way,
see
not
that,
in the first round.
I could see that happening, but I also think Oakland's a disaster. Like I'm not sure. Like, do we think that the Raiders are going to be able to get this thing together? Look at some of the guys they brought in. Look at this locker room right now. Antonio Brown, Vontaze Burfict, Richie Incognito.
A lot of guys.
Like, are they going to rush? Are they going to be able to rush the passer this year?
Here's
By the way, I'm sorry, I don't want to forget. By the way, are they going to be able to rush the passer this year? Because their edge rush stunk.
No.
And Cleveland Farrell's not like. How often do edge rushers? How often are they good as rookies? Not very. So I don't
Marcel
think
Darius. I mean, there's a few guys.
edge rushers, right?
Edge
like,
rushers.
So
Yeah,
I'm not sure that their defense is going to get a whole lot better. Even though I do like Josh Jacobs, I do think he's very draftable in fantasy. But like, I'm just not sure, man. I'm not sold. I think this is a combustible situation. I put it this way: I have more faith in Vic Fangio's ability to get the most out of the Broncos defense than I have in John Gruden's ability to get that team together. Just this year,
right? What bothers me, I think, about Oakland, and probably what I struggled with when I was thinking about, okay, is this the fourth place team in the AFC West? When I was out there for their final full squad minicamp, right, in June, and so I asked Gruden about, regimes don't make it through the transition of moving, and that's become like this whole subset. Like, people don't even think really about Oakland going through a moving process. It's really hard on teams as a distraction. It sucks, and they've got enough distractions as it is now. Yeah. And he said to me, he's like, in his Gruden way, he got all pissed, and he's like, Mike Mayock just got off the plane. The regime's not even in place yet. That scares me to hear a head coach go, the regime's not even in place yet.
Yeah, you think
like
they're
in my
finishing
mind,
third.
Yeah, like in my mind, I was like, that's the 10-year contract talking. Like, that's the guy who's like, I have no problem just telling you that, by the way.
We'll make it in year 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares?
Oh, by the way. Right. Like, we don't even really have the structure in place yet. So, yeah, that was troubling to me. But I will say this. Burfict, Incognito, if these are guys who, mentally they are, if their heads are in the game, where they, and this is, I don't mean to, it's not a mental health thing. I'm not making like a mild swipe of mental health. I'm talking about football-wise. If they're locked
dialed in, are they locked in?
Are they focused on football?
They're locked in.
Yes. To me, these are guys that they can be an adrenaline shot for a year. Okay? We've seen guys who will come in as veterans be a quick adrenaline shot in terms of a locker room culture for 1 year before problems really start. I think there's a chance that Burfict and Antonio Brown and Richie Incognito are a quick adrenaline shot that it's just enough to help them ascend. But I don't know that it lasts longer than a year.
But AB getting his targets early is going to be key. He'll get his targets.
I think he'll be Derek Carr's best friend.
I do too.
Absolutely.
Now, there's going to be a time at some point this year. It might be week 8. It might be week 5. It might be week 14. Where Antonio's got like 4 steps on a cornerback on a deep post, and Carr checks down, and he just loses his shit.
Right.
Like, he just loses it. And everyone's going to see it, and it's going to become a thing. But my hunch is that happens in week 14, not week 4. So,
okay, so we flip-flop 4th and 3rd.
That's fine.
The only thing I will say about Denver, too, Emmanuel Sanders, Where's his health
Yeah,
at?
I don't
You know.
have a whole lot of faith in the Broncos offense. Believe me, I don't feel great
Right,
about it.
Right. It's
But-
a defensive and the coaching. Okay, so I got Raiders third, and Broncos fourth. You have Broncos third and Raiders fourth.
Right.
Okay. Fair enough.
Chargers. Not crazy about this Melvin Gordon situation.
Right.
I mean, do what you got to do, Mel. By all means, get your money.
Right.
Just, this is a team that went 12-4 last year, you know? And I think in general, they did some things to really get better. But I'm going to pick the Chargers, obviously, finish second. They're going to have to show me that they're going to topple the Chiefs. Just like the Chiefs had to show me they were going to topple the Broncos all those years ago. You're going to have to earn it. You couldn't. They finished with the same record, but they still weren't division champs. The Chargers are an interesting team. I think they're going to be 500 or better again. But I don't know. I'm not sold on them winning this division yet, though I see a lot of people picking them to do it.
Here's what makes me nervous about the Chargers and why I don't even think they're going to be a 12-4 team. Like, I think they're still going to be a good team. I'm thinking it's more like it looks like a 10-6 team to me.
That's about right.
I think defensively, Bosa, you're going to have certain guys that are going to be on the field, like, I think full-time. You know, you get back to what the unit should have been at the beginning of the season last year. You get that this year. Okay, that's great. I think they're a good defensive team. I think that Melvin Gordon, part of the reason why Melvin Gordon's doing what he's doing right now is that he knows that the Chargers need him and that they are going to load him up. And I absolutely 100% think he's correct. I think the plan for that Chargers offense is a ton of Melvin Gordon this year. What makes me nervous about that is he does not have good knees historically. Now, I'm not, and Melvin, I don't want to upset you right now, but the thing is, we know what the medical is, and his knees make me nervous. If you are predicating so much of the offense on really having this all-around back that you're going to put a ton of touches on him, and he doesn't have great knees, that to me feels like when we saw Todd Gurley get tendinitis.
I was just about to say, I wonder how much he hurt other guys potentially because he signed that contract almost immediately.
Right.
Tendinitis.
And it screwed up the Rams offense. I don't care what anybody says. As soon as Todd Gurley had that tendinitis, they're lucky that they had C.J. Anderson to step in and pick up the load at least part of the time. But you saw a team that offensively geared a lot of what it did through the running back, which is what the Chargers want to do. And if something goes wrong there, if he gets hurt, if he only plays 8 games, if anything happens, or if he's just not feeling it, if he gets run down, this changes things offensively for them, I think, significantly. Or at least the plans.
People like Austin Eckler. I just think there's a big difference. You know, like I hear you. I'm
Huge
just saying,
difference. I'm with you there.
I get it. I'm just saying I think there's a difference. They also lost Tyrell Williams.
Yeah.
And they didn't really replace him.
And he was a pretty good player.
He's a good player.
Yeah. Resurfaced as a good player for them.
I think you look at the draft. Jerry Tillery is a good football player. He's going to help them. The second round pick, health permitting.
Right.
The second round pick, Nasir Adderley, one of my favorite guys in the draft. But I will tell you this, talking to guys around the league about him, he's not necessarily someone that everybody had a consensus on that he would help early.
Right.
Because he doesn't see it.
I think he's got some development.
He doesn't see it that fast. He's a good athlete. He hits you. He can turn the ball over. But as far as processing, it's going to take some time with him.
It's a great thing to worry about with Pat Mahomes. Yeah, Pat Mahomes. Hey, our safety's not seeing things as fast as he could, and we got Pat Mahomes.
That's exactly what you want. So yeah, just to wrap it up on the Chargers, I think they got some issues as far as having to replace some guys. I think their right tackle situation is still getting figured out, but I still think it's a good team. They'll finish above 500. They'll compete for the division crown, but I think the team that's pretty clearly division champions will be the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right.
Team that went 12-4 last year, arguably has the most valuable young player in football in Patrick Mahomes, arguably the most valuable, period. I think this is a team that's done a whole lot to try and rectify a defense that was a complete disaster by the end of the season. And I give them a lot of credit for trying to rectify it. They fired Bob Sutton, the defensive coordinator. They hired Steve Spagnuolo. And not just that, they went from a 3-4 to a 4-3 overnight. And they were tasked with trying to make it a championship caliber defense overnight while switching schemes, which is not easy. But you sign Tyrann Mathieu to be kind of your Brian Dawkins, which is they've done. Trust me. They kind of see him as the spiritual voice. And Steve Spagnuolo is going to use him that way, lining him up all over and making plays. But Frank Clark's going to have to deliver on all the money they paid him.
Right.
Because there's also pressure here because their decision to pay Frank Clark is directly impacting what's happening with Chris Jones right now. Because you can't pay somebody from the outside after your own guys had 15 sacks without him expecting to get paid the same. So Frank Clark's going to have to live up to that deal. And the Chiefs need Chris Jones to get back into camp. Not a situation unlike Ezekiel Elliott, right? Like he's got to be in 30 days before the season begins to get his accrued year. He'll show up for that. But if they make him come play and sing for his supper, when they have to franchise him next year, things could get very difficult for them as far as maybe he ends up being a Frank Clark next year where he finds another home somewhere. Or there won't be a hometown discount if he's got to sing for his supper this year. So I think it'll be interesting to see, but I do think that they've done some things on the defense to try and make it Super Bowl caliber worthy. They'll win the division. We'll have to see if it's enough to push them to the Super Bowl.
I think as someone who's seen Frank over the years, multiple years I've gone out like in person and seen Frank in Seattle. I saw what he sort of became to them. Part of the reason why Seattle let Frank go was because I think they are looking long-term at a number of guys they want to extend, money that they want to pay out. And I think I don't think they were happy to let Frank go, but for the compensation, the way everything worked out, I think not having to pay out the money that they paid.
It's my understanding Pete's not happy about it.
I mean, Pete's not happy from the standpoint of any time you lose a guy who is, I think they felt like he's an elite level pass rusher. Like they felt that way. But not only that, and the growth that I saw for him, he was and we've talked about this, he was a mentality setter in that locker room. I literally watched him knock out Jermaine Ifedi in practice.
And
I was there.
That's why the Chiefs got him, to bring that mentality.
Yes. Like he is a brand of nasty.
That is rare.
That is rare even for the NFL. And sometimes that can be really good for your locker room. Sometimes it can be a little scary, because there are guys who will back down significantly from him, and he could, so we'll see. But I think I like Tyrann Mathieu. You bring in a guy who he has his own mentality to him. You can move him a lot, and as you said, they can move him a lot of places in that defense. They can be creative with him. That's awesome. You've got to love creativity in a defense. And then to have a guy who is that not only a pass rusher but a tone setter that the past pass rushers didn't quite have that edge to them that he will bring to them. So defensively, I expect them to be a better team. Offensively, I want to see who's going to be on the field for him. Okay, Tyreek Hill, is he going to be there? How much is he going to be there? Like we got to sort all that stuff out. Is there any lag from this whole thing? Like I'm curious if this manifests itself in other ways in terms of just a mental impact on everything that happens offensively with him.
If there is, it won't be on Tyreek. Tyreek Hill is in unbelievable shape right now. Just trust me on that. Like this is about to be the contract years of contract years. Like if he gets a chance to play, and I think there's a significant amount of optimism coming out of Kansas City that he will play, and not just play, that the suspension, if there is one, will not be like too cumbersome, right? But at the end of the day, as I've told all you guys, as we continue to do this, Roger Goodell can what, Charles? Do what he wants. Yeah. So we'll have to see.
That's the way it's set up. Another pivotal piece here that I think is going to be very interesting, and a lot of people are kind of excited about the running back, and he's going to be, that you've got a situation.
Yeah, this ought to be interesting.
That to me is, he's not a known commodity. I mean, there's an element of him being a known commodity, but again, it's not the running back you had, who's now on the Cleveland Browns roster, is not walking through that door. Like he's just not, no matter what. And so to me, there has to be an element of not just functionality at the running back spot and the depth at the running back spot, but there has to be some playmaking. Yeah. And so you can't just assume because of how the offense is run, the fact that you have Pat Mahomes and there are all these other pieces, that it's just going to happen. You said to me as the season kind of went on last year, you said to me, like, look, I see the difference. Like, I watch them game in, game out. I see them. I break down film. I see the difference at the running back spot. You know, when
it matters.
You saw the tier of talent drop down a little bit. So I think offensively it'll be interesting to see how that manifests itself. I personally believe this team, I will be disappointed if this team does not take that next step. I feel like, and
you'll be disappointed. They'll be disappointed too.
What scares me about this is how I felt about, now a totally different situation at quarterback, but this is how I felt about Jacksonville a year ago, where I was like, Jacksonville, I was like, they're poised. They're poised to do that. They're poised to take that step. This defense is
I like that you brought that up.
Unbelievable. They're prime. They're this. They're that. I see all these things happening, and then they ran into a buzzsaw of ego. They ran into a buzzsaw of a number of different things. I don't think Kansas City is set up the same way.
Definitely not on the ego part.
But I feel like when I look at Kansas City and when I watch that AFC Championship game again, and I watch them, so the two games I watched over the last week, I watched 2 Kansas City games. I watched, I had the Rams game downloaded.
Which has just basically been on repeat.
Yeah, it was on NFL Network.
They're just showing it.
Yeah, so I watched the Rams game and then I watched the AFC title game.
Yeah.
And I just sat there and I'm like, if this team doesn't take a step forward from this,
stuff's gonna happen.
It's what's wrong? Like they should.
Well, then we'll take kind of like the next step in people's relationship with Patrick Mahomes, where they'll start foolishly saying, "Oh, you know, look at his record against the good teams in the big games." They'll start doing that stuff.
Let's not get there yet.
No.
It's year 3.
But I'm telling you, like, there's already a little bit of it.
I know, that's ridiculous.
It's
like, come on, he's been
I
a starter
agree.
1 year. Like,
I agree, but you asked what's gonna happen.
No, I know.
That's gonna happen.
Look,
And you're gonna get. Here's who it's gonna come down to. Most of the blame's coming on Andy Reid for people.
We have a lot of Chiefs fans who listen, right?
No, but they know this stuff,
I know this,
though.
but they hear you all the time. They know you, okay? They don't know me as much. A lot of these Chiefs fans. I will just say it from my standpoint. I live in Houston. I've covered the league since 2000. Knock that shit off, okay? Like, seriously, we're to the point now. It's only year 2 as a full-time starter for Pat Mahomes. I'm not telling you.
No.
I'm telling people who are going to question Pat Mahomes.
Okay. Because that's not Chiefs fans.
No.
Okay,
I'm saying anybody.
Oh.
If it's outside, I don't care if it is a small segment of Chiefs fans.
I got you.
I don't care if it's outside.
No,
but
they're
if people are already coming for Pat Mahomes and saying what about
Garbage,
his record here? There, knock that shit off.
Right.
Okay, we just
I got
started. We just got on the train ride. Don't start saying, "Are we there yet?"
Right.
Okay, just stop it.
I love
Okay?
it. Well, here's the thing. If they don't make it to the Super Bowl this year, people are always going to blame the quarterback and the coach. And that's going to come. And as foolish as that be for the quarterback, you know, there's going to be people coming for Andy. Now, Andy's going to be fine. Like, all he does is win and make money for Clark Hunt and the Chiefs. So they're going to be fine. But it'll be interesting to see what happens, because this team has absolutely been built to win now. And the intensity to do so is only going to continue to grow until they finally do it. So we just reviewed the whole conference. Who do you have coming out of here?
It's got to be the Chiefs. We're going to agree on this, but it's got to be the Chiefs. The Chiefs, to me, are primed in the AFC to take that next step. And at some point, New England has to feel the loss. Gronk, it worries me too much seeing Gronk go out the door. I don't think he's the replaceable part that maybe other people were from a lot of different standpoints. So the Chiefs, as I said, I will be disappointed if they don't take the next step to the Super Bowl. If they do not end up in the Super Bowl, to me, they regressed. Even if they make it to the AFC title game,
That's true.
I still think it's a regression.
It'll be a failure of a season if they don't take the next step. I do think it's interesting. Vegas has both the Chiefs and Patriots with 6-1 odds. Patriots are the defending champions. Chiefs being 6-1 odds, same as them, make you think that they probably think the Chiefs are going to go there too.
Right.
So, I think it is the Chiefs. But as we know, on any given Sunday, you're either going to win or you're going to lose. So we're going to see what happens, right? Charles, good rap with you, man. Good to get back in the saddle for this thing. It's been a lot of fun. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Terez Paylor. You can follow Charles on Twitter at Charles Robinson. Give the Yahoo Sports Twitter handle a follow. And Charles, had a good time, man. Good to be back in the saddle.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
All right. See you guys next week. Peace.